Good afternoon, everybody. Hope your day is going well. And it is Wednesday, so we all know what time it is. That's right, it's time for Wilson Wednesday. We're talking about Russell, talking about how he played. We're talking about how his game is changing under this new offense. You know the drill by now. Now, I think that Russell Wilson played a really good game against the Vikings on Sunday. It didn't result in a lot of points, and it certainly didn't result in a win, but I liked the way he played, and I liked the fact that, well, he moved the ball consistently. I don't think we had any meaningful three and outs in that game. There was just a lot to like for me, and let's see how that translates to some of these numbers because right away, before we get started, I'm going to tell you that there is some stuff here that indicates that we are starting to move towards a different kind of offense and a different type of quarterback play. But there's also some stuff here that is really alarming, and I'm definitely going to mention that before we wrap up here. So let's start with air yards, because as I said a couple times already, under Waldron, in theory, air yards should be lower than before, and through the first two games they were not. But Wilson's air yards per pass attempt have come down significantly after that Vikings game, which makes sense because he completed a lot of short passes through a lot of not a lot of checkdowns, but a decent number of checkdowns, was going for intermediate stuff, was trying to pick things apart over the middle, and was doing a good job getting the ball out of his hands quickly. His air yards per pass completion plummeted all the way down to 7. So we saw a different type of Wilson against the Vikings, and I don't want to over exaggerate anything because it's just one game and we have a lot more to see before we can say whether or not this is working. But I saw a Wilson that could stick around in the NFL for a while longer than his athleticism would have allowed if he keeps that up. And also really cool was the yards after catch per pass completion was really high. It's currently up to 7.3 through 3 games on the season, which is much higher than it's been in any previous years. We had a lot of yards after the catch against the Vikings. And if Wilson can get this number up, then it's going to more than cancel out the air yards coming down. This is one of the things that I was really interested to see. Could it be improved in 2021? Through 3 games, so far so good, and it happened without the benefit of any 50-yard passes where the receiver runs the last 20 yards to the end zone untouched. Okay, so now we go to the accuracy. How accurate was Wilson? He missed some throws against the Vikings. His number of bad throws through 3 games is up to 13, meaning that PFR gave him 6 inaccurate throws against the Vikings. I think most of those throws were in the second half, maybe even all of them, because that's when his struggle started to come in. That's when he started to get a little desperate. That's when the pressure started to come in. That's when the offensive line started to break down, and we saw Wilson make some suboptimal throws. His bad throw percentage is up to 16, which is more or less in line with what we've seen in the previous seasons. His on-target throw percentage, however, is pretty good, and he's making a lot of accurate throws as of right now. According to PFR, he's made 68 on the season, and pretty much every throw he made against the Vikings that was not bad was considered on target. So he was on point for the most part in that game. And if you take a look at his on-target throw percentage, it's up to 84. So that's higher than it's been the last 2 years by 5 to 8 percentage points. So the accuracy is still there, and it makes sense why it would be. After all, the throws should be easier, and easier throws should make for a higher completion percentage and a higher on-target percentage. So that's all good. Now we get to his pressure numbers, and this is where we start to see a real problem developing. And it's not just that there's a problem, potentially, but it's where the problem is coming from. So let's just go through the numbers here. Wilson, his pocket time through 3 games is at 2.2. Now, that is to be expected. As I said many times, Wilson's pocket time should go down because he's getting the ball out faster. Now, his pocket time actually went up from last week. It was down to 2 seconds last week, but 2.2 is still a good amount lower than it was the last 3 years. That's not a problem. Also not a problem is 8 sacks. He got sacked twice against the Vikings. That's pretty good. I am happy to live with 8 sacks in 3 games for a guy like Wilson playing in a new offense, blah, 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 blah. You guys know the drill by now. However, the rest of these pressure numbers start to get concerning. Through 3 games, he has been hurried 13 times, and I think 7 of those hurries came against the Vikings specifically. He has been hit 8 times, and I think 4 of those hits came against the Vikings. And this is the big one. He has been pressured 29 times through 3 games, and more than half of those pressures came against the Vikings. His pressure percentage is now basically in line with what it was the last 3 years. So to recap, Wilson has less pocket time than before, and yet he is still getting pressured at a rate roughly commensurate to what it was the last 3 years. So he is changing the way he is playing at least a little bit through 3 games, but he's not experiencing much of a benefit. He's getting pressured about as much as he has ever been pressured. And according to PFR, he was pressured, I think, 16 times against the Vikings. Some of those were planned pressures because there were screen passes, so I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is that supposedly Dwayne Brown allowed 7 pressures by himself against the Vikings. If Dwayne Brown is entering another phase of his career, which after a game like that you have to wonder could be possible, that is a huge issue for this offense, and one that we may not be able to fix, even if the players start to pick up the playbook as the season goes on. If Dwayne Brown cannot be a lockdown left tackle anymore, then I don't know what we do. Stone Forsythe is not ready. Jamarco Jones, I don't really believe in him as a starter in the league right now. I know he played okay at right against the Vikings, but I don't believe in him long term. So that is something to monitor very closely. If Dwayne Brown does not improve significantly protecting Wilson's blind side going forward, then I don't know what we do, other than maybe Taylor Decker. And that's a conversation for another time. Okay, he scrambled 3 times against the Vikings, so he has 7 total on the season. That's fine. That's unremarkable. And we had another 7 play action attempts against the Vikings for a total of 21. So we've had 7 in each game. And I would like to play action a little bit more, but we're also not running that many plays. So that's part of the problem. And that's something that can just be taken care of by the defense getting off the field or the offense not going 3 and out. I will take either, but we need one of those things. We cannot be running 50 to 55 plays on offense in every game. It's not sustainable to win games when you're doing that for the most part. And that's all we have for Wilson Wednesday. There's some good stuff here. There really is. Wilson is getting rid of the ball faster. He is taking the easier, shorter throws. And he is accurate enough to generate a lot of yards after the catch on those shorter throws. And we saw some real progress from him in terms of being able to move the chains on a consistent basis. I'm pretty sure we had at least 1 first down on every meaningful offensive drive we had. But I'm really looking at Dwayne Brown right now, and I'm wondering if maybe the team made a very prescient move in not extending him this offseason, because the Vikings seemed to beat him up a good amount, and I didn't even notice it that much watching the game, but multiple sources confirm he could not keep up. All right, see you guys later today. Go Hawks.